looking forward, I believe that there will a essential leap in the future. One is the sensor technology. The sensor technology can be further matured and allowed our human beings so that can lead our humans into a more broad world. So in this in Metaverse, the logical stone, the logical foundation of this verse is the consensus algorithm. So based on these two preconditions, so it makes sense for us to predict the big bang of the Metaverse. That's the opening part of my speech. Then let's look back to our real business. First, let's look at the background of digital cultural industry. I will quickly go through this part. That's the foundation. What is digital culture? I think it's a further extension of the material culture. What is digital culture? For example, TV. This is one of the old trend. Or you can see there are internet music, internet painting, internet animation. These can be all called. These are the different forms of digital culture. To put it in a summary, this is based on this computer factor. Any cultural creation or consumption is based on the information technology. So that's why I need to emphasize that the computer is the core factor. So what is this cultural industry, digital culture industry? So this can form into another economic system. It includes creation, production, and transportation section. It has its features. For example, it is virtual, it is interactive, it can lead you to another world, and it's immersive. Next, why it is facing a big bang? Because we have a very good information technology. We call it a D basic. We have different characters to symbolize the big data blockchain. So this is not only about these numbers, including image, videos, audios, all this information has been included in that. We can process all this data. So with the support of these technologies, our experience has been greatly improved. So from this human to computer, we can have this immersive experience. In the past, we have different machines, but now we have this kind of different scenarios. Someday even predicts that the machine can read your mind. I think that's pretty much in the future. It can be reachable in the near future. So human experience can be more immersive. So that's basic outline. And for this industry, it's still booming and it's developing so fast because it includes so many aspects. I take two examples. One is the pure digital culture. Another is this hybrid digital culture form. For example, the NBA, basketball, alliances. So most of the activities were based on this data form. For example, the rebroadcasting is a kind of cornerstone in digital form. So not to mention video games. Next, for the national background is our country is encouraging so much for the digital cultural industry. There are so many guidance, suggestions, and the central governments realized that this industry is closely related with people's livelihood. So this is a very important support for people's livelihood. The second part, I want to talk about the problems and challenges of this, and the problem is so severe, and it's hindered our development because the development of blockchain. Because of a blockchain, we can further break through the bottleneck, or not to mention we can diminish these challenges. But we can have this disruptive innovation. Let's look at the pain points. One of them is the property system. That's the foundation of economic development. Even it is the base of civilization. From a real economy, or let's say in a material economy, how could we develop this virtual economy? How could we protect this virtual properties in the virtual world? If we don't have this mechanism, how could we protect this intellectual property, right? The IPR, it has been divided into three parts. One of it is I want to elaborate more in details. What I need to point it out is that the timing is difficult, and it's very hard for us to register, to authorize it, to protect it right. So the cost of operating is very high. Some of the mechanisms could not protect our IP. And then we have this problem. We have this upside down and unbalanced development. What are the status quo of that? Actually, it is a kind of a system centralized by this commercial platform. You can see all these principles are at this is edge. Not only these creations, sometimes even the creators, they have to rely on this platform. If without this platform, they could not survive. So this is unfair. So this upside down development, which is bad, is first the profit is not transferred to the original creator, and this is prevalent because the disproportionate division of profit. So the creators are not encouraged to create more original things. So the creators are disencouraged. Second, as the original work need to mainly rely on this platform, so it's not a fully developed property, because the creator definitely hope that his creation can be expanded into the whole world. But for the platform, they want to exclude these creators, and they want to possess this asset. So actually it hindered the industry potential development. So that's the basic status quo for this industry. There are still unknown places to develop. That's the status quo of this industry. we have already detached this problem, but how would this blockchain help to solve these problems? And these are the observations. So one of the core value. So as a practitioner, I just quickly go through this. And this is what one of the core nature is that the distributed ledger based on algorithm. So when we see the future trend, we think it has several aspects to development. First is that it can be I said expression of the property right. The second is about smart contract. The third is about the transfer recording of these properties and the profits. So that's the general observation. So in the digital industry, so the IP application in this industry, because of this blockchain is developing very fast. So based on this trusted system, this consensus algorithm with this kind of matured system. So based on these features, we think that we have a different tactic meanings or new models. Because the blockchain provided us a whole box of tools for transaction or collaboration with different parties, there are new brand ways for us in the industry. So I won't elaborate on this, but the result is that I have mentioned about IPR protection. The result is that the creator will easily possess its the right of its IP. It's not because there's no legislation or no laws to protect. It is now we have the technology. We have this a whole box of tools to support for the creators become the real owner of the work. So the platform can make them more balanced with the creator. So we can form a new kind of business model and a new ecosystem. That's from the tactic meaning. Then we further expand what are the strategic meaning for blockchain. Although we've mentioned how to protect the IPR, this is a very concrete, a specific topic. So under that principle, how could we form another more legitimate form? Or shall we just stop there, solving a concrete problem? No. We are facing a new opportunity. This kind of technology can help us to create a new world. We have to further explain more. When we find something new in the technology, we always want to use the new technology to solve the problem in the old world. And of course, the new technology will help us in the old world, in the building sector, in the construction world, in different economic industries. Right, that's all right. It can solve the problems in the old world. Not to mention whether it can improve greatly, but actually it can help us. But what I want to say here is that we don't want to. That we often neglect that will be a bright future. That is one of the possibilities is that that's more strategic. Maybe in the future we will have a brand new world. Definitely in this new world we'll have this embodiment in the old world. What is this digital cultural industry? So all the profits or all the encouragement has come back to the creators. So it fully explore the potentials of this industry. So by our imagination, and it will definitely allows more space to develop. And that's what I call this metaverse. This is I coined it, and somebody coined it this verse. I accept it. I think it makes sense. So from philosophical level, I think we have to work it out. We definitely need to make rules, make orders. We can see that the new execution is supported, is encouraged by this blockchain technology. And we will have this new world, metaverse. That's the strategic meaning. The last one is about this new world called metaverse. What kind of situation for this new world, Big Bang? What is the old world? Old world. I will quote the Abraham Lincoln. Well, he said in this Gettysburg address, this kind of old people is based on of the people, by the people, for the people. And the government is of the people. And that's the three features for the government. I'm not to emphasize on the three features, which means that's the base is important. All the computers, we have this same theory of the computer, by the computer, for the computer, but especially for the third layer, for the computer, especially for the people who behind these computers. Because the bridging relationship between computers and people, sometimes we don't have to distinguish them so specifically with some proper sensor. People sometimes will feel they are the computers in the virtual world. So in this new world, the basic three features are of the computer, by the computer, and for the computers. So we see that we are facing two worlds, the old one and the new one. This is very interesting. And you can see so many possibilities in this new world. This new world are still at the beginning stage. It will face a big bang. Actually, I think everyone knows about this encrypted cat and different and other various of examples. And this new kinds of phenomenal cases, if you have the interest, you can check it online. What we've seen is that we truly believe that this new world will have this big bang. First is about this sensor technology. Second is that the blockchain, rule-based blockchain development. And these two dimensions will develop quickly and reinforce each other. So for the first sensor technology, it will diminish the blocks between people and the computer. And human beings and the computers will have this seamless connection, and it will improve the human beings' experience. Actually, people and the computers are intertwined together. Second, any new world, it won't develop its civilization without rules. In the past, the old world, we couldn't say that there's no rules in the old world. but we need to base on the rules of material world. The famous game, it's very popular. What is the base? The base is Tencent's center computer. And we can see this feature in logic, this metaverse. The support of this metaverse is the center or centralized point in the old world. Or we are decoupling with the support from the old world. So in the metaverse, because in this new world, all the things were based on this encrypted algorithm, and we will have this brand new a system of rules and standards so that we can make prosperous in the industry. So what are the potentials for this new world? So what are the future trends? What are its values in the future? Because this new world was not limited by space, which means this new world will be very big. The GDP of the new world will definitely exceed that in the older world. Somebody may challenge me, but I think that will be the truth in the future. So all things in our life, take United States for example, 1% of the population only are in the agriculture industry. So all this material economy is reaching a saturation. So we're almost to that level. So as I have mentioned in the NBA, if for a farmers in a remote village, and he may think that's a virtual world for him. So why there are 5 people, 6 people are competing each other for this little ball, and why there are millions of people are watching it and may even try to pay for it. This is impossible for a farmer in a remote area. So that's a different recognition, different understandings. But I have to tell you, sooner in the future, we will change our perspective. There are many things will be embedded in that, including our GDP, will be embedded in this new world. First, for its meanings, its economic development. So many youngsters are facing job unemployment. So during this problem, during this development, we can solve this problem. This is very practical. Second, for China, we want to make contributions to the world cultural industry. Now we have this chance. Now we have these opportunities. Who will benefit from this cultural industry? This is not. It's not the creators, but the people we are living in this world. And I think we can also provide contributions to this industry. Last but not least, for this human civilization, there are many projections, anticipations for that. There are positive and there are negatives. But we can see that many people think that we don't need so many people for the material economy. A very famous writer, Yuval Harari, and he wrote in a book, A Brief History of Humankind, and he thought human beings will be divided into 2 kinds of parts. 99% of the people are useless people, and this useless is called in a conservative way. So where these people go? And he also said maybe they may go to the virtual world to live, to create, to entertain. the only 1% of the population will live in this traditional world, this conservative world. So in the future, we will see a new kind of country, although we were not physically there, but in a certain sense, they are the same. So this emergence is this emerges. In the end, if our prediction is right, and it could be not neglected by the old world. All these are based, no matter the new world or the old world, they are all based on the rules. So whether this governance logic is important. So in the old world, we can use the consortium governance logic to solve the problems in old world. But we can also see the public chain governance logic to solve problems in the virtual world. Of course, it can provide a more inclusive, basic logic base. This permissive or open models can coexist together. Second, how could we protect the IPRs? This consensus algorithm or authentic certification, how could these two coexist? Next is, as I've mentioned just now, this new world, the three features of the computer, by the computer, and for the computer. How could that evolve in the new world? Of course, there were forms and new kinds of form of these features. Or a single world, new world. How could they coexist with this old world? These are the challenges and difficulties facing us. Okay, my speech basically is all about that. When we review the development of new technology, we have found that the breakthrough is always at its weak point. At the beginning of internet, the e-commerce appeared in CD industry. Now even the hardest one, the necessities can be sold on the e-commerce platform. So at the beginning, we're all focusing on how to use new technology in the old world. But now I think we can change a little bit our perspective. How could we create a new world? Maybe the difficulties and the challenges will be easier, because in the past decades, we're using new technology to solve problems in the old world. So I think challenges and opportunities are there too. So we have to embrace the bright future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful sharing. Very important key message that we can use blockchain and embrace the culture. We will have a lot of challenges, but we have to embrace the challenges too. From yesterday to today, for the 2-day forum, we talked a lot about the challenges and opportunities of blockchain. We had a lot of sharings, exchanges, but in the interest of time, we have very limited time. So now we'll have a roundtable to look back on the sharings of the 2 days forum, and also we will echo to your questions. So we have noted a lot of questions, right? Collected some of the notes. Then we'll have the roundtable and try to
answer all the questions. And so here we have the guests of the round table, the chair professor, foreign academician of Japanese Academy of Engineering, Professor Li Jie, and also Mr. Han Jun, China Electronic Standardization Association Vice Chairman and former inspector of Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, Mr. Wu Ming, Conflux, Shanghai Treehouse, Tree Graph Blockchain Research Institute, and Wu Jie, PhD. Shanghai Advanced Institute of Finance, former senior economist of Federal Reserve and China Computer Federation and Technical Committee of BC. Yesterday, we heard Yao Qizhi. We Academician Yao Qizhi said in his congratulations speech, blockchain technology has a considerable prospect from theory to large-scale application. He hopes that government and various industries can provide more policy support, resources, and application opportunities for the application of blockchain and innovative technology, promote R&D and application with practice. And also two guests, two keynote speakers, and Cao Jianming and Mr. Wen Shi introduced the application of blockchain in construction industry and government affairs. In addition to government affairs and construction, what other scenarios can blockchain technology be applied to? And how to realize more extensive applications? What is the process of blockchain applications in the world? Mr. Hu, it is difficult to actually realize the practice of blockchain application. The bottleneck is that it is a new technology. If you want to introduce in the new technology, then you have to break the existing framework and structure of the old system, right? And now you introduce in the blockchain system, we have to kind of have coordination and embed the new technology into the old system, right? So how do we do it? We need a lot of engineering, of course. It involves a lot of engineering. We are now promoting. If we want to promote the system, it has to do a lot of engineering. Engineering definitely requires a lot of architecture and work. And another key bottleneck is talent. We need talents. Blockchain technology is emerging. It's new. Worldwide speaking or nationwide speaking, we all need talents, right, in terms of engineering, students, researchers, workers. In China, we can see that those scholars or workers who really master the technology of blockchain, the number of them are really small. So when we are seeking the talents for like a smart contract engineering, smart contract programming, it is very difficult for us to find the right persons. Another thing is the social consensus. More people do not really accept the idea of decentralization. Many people say it is okay to have a center, right? It is good to have a center. It is traditional operation and it's good. It builds trust among different people. So it is good to have a center. It is good to have a centralized system. So how do we do education? How do we promote new technology to the general public? It is also very important to do training and publication. This is what we do, one of the directions of our work in our institute. so that people can access to the knowledge and technology itself of blockchain. And it can improve the overall capacity. And also the businesses, the companies will have more capacity to use and apply the technology. And for the general public, the layman, we want to promote the knowledge and the advancements, the feature of the new technology, right? So talent building and the consensus of the society, right? These are the keywords, right? Yes. Yes. Dr. Wu Ming talked about the application. Let's take turns, okay? I suggest, let's receive questions to Mr. Han. We all know standardization is very important, but another thing is about practice, right? We need a lot of foundation for practice to realize all these standards, right? Dynamic practice always takes place in like public chains, like Ether coin, right? But actually, the practice is not active at the moment, not active enough. How can we promote the standardization to promote practice instead of doing standards aside from practice? Well, it's a very good question. Standards are related to practice, closely related to practice. Standards outside the practice is vacant, is in vain, right? So when we're working out or rolling out standards, we're considering about the whole ecology of the industry, right? Any standards outside of the real ecology of the industry is of no use, right? Professor Hu talked about the decentralization. In China, we love centers. We love centralization, right? This is our tradition. So this kind of way of thinking will influence or will have impact the speed of development of the new technology, like blockchain in China. But we have another political advancement, is that as long as the leadership of the country emphasized technology, then there will be advancement, improvement of the technology and the promotion of the technology nationwide. We have the trust mechanism, right? The trust mechanism of blockchain can solve a lot of problems, right? So standardization will definitely be implemented in the real practice, like consortium chain and public chain. We've already been working on some of the standards. It's new, but we are still working on it. This concept, even for me, I think this technology is really a kind of emergent. When we are working in the ministry, when I was working in the ministry, we talked a lot of like AI, big data. One day, suddenly there is a new term, blockchain. For me, it's new, but in the central leadership, we are already talking about it. I believe that it will be promoted very quickly in a very good way. When I was listening to the previous speeches, I have a strong feeling. I had a strong feeling that in the promotion of standardization, we have to select the the most important links to work out decentralization instead of centralization. This is not our focus. The internet was promoted very rapidly in China just because it is good in real practice, right? Everybody loves it, right? A lot of risks are there, but well, we talked a lot about the risks of like mobile payments, electronic payments. At the very beginning, we talked a lot about the risks, but later on, you'll find that everybody is using it. You have to use it. You have to accept it too, right? So blockchain is a blue sea now. In the future, blockchain personnels, well, you have to follow this trend that you have to select the most popular nodes, the most popular steps. Well, instead of focusing on the decentralization feature of blockchain, because it's the centralization is in our culture, right? Standardization is in every step, but relax, it has to be related to practice, to all our implementation of blockchain. Our country, the leaders of our countries were talking about blockchain. Yes, it's true, but we all emphasize the practice and what is good in the standardization in practice. And the standardization also will be leading the trend too, in the same way. Well, we have another question to you. Decentralization transaction center, whether it is possible to build a kind of a decentralized transaction center in the future? Well, I'm not the right person to answer this question. I'm not authoritative enough to answer this question. But decentralization, well, we have two types. If there is no center, it is easy to practice, right? Because we have different systems. Our professors are talking about the rules. We have to have a rule, right? When we do everything, we need a rule. Rule for games, right? Now we are promoting decentralization. It doesn't mean that there is no rule. We have a centered system. It's difficult to have a decentralized one. Well, if we are going to build a new world, a digital culture is needed, right? There is a question here to Professor Hu. Could you give us some examples of existing or working cultural program, about digital culture? Well, if you're interested in the industry, the blockchain industry, you may notice that there are already a lot of sub-industries, games, the virtual life, the game, if you know, and some digital works, digital arts. A lot of examples are already there. If you are interested in it, games, virtual Decentraland is one of the example, or some game like a Metaverse, a Roblox. If you check on the internet, you search a little bit on the engine, you will know that there are already a lot of examples. Another example is that recently the bidding of the artworks, art pieces. It is traceable and you can check the history. It is always good for bidding, right? Well, it is like just the eve of explosion, I think. Another question, you mentioned the art NFT. A question is recently NFT is very popular. If there is any plagiarism of copying of the application, and the original one is already like deleted. If the original one is deleted, it is very difficult to monitor, right? Especially when it is cross borders. Yes. Oh, it is a very good question. I once asked the very similar question to my student. If Mona Lisa, this work, you all know this traditional and famous art piece. If it is deposited in the bank and be sold on the auction, and it is very easy to be copied, right? But in fact, NFC is a very convenient way to trace and confirm the right in practice, in operation. If we look at it, we can look at, or we can find the trace, the tradition, and the way of transaction. So this kind of verification is very important. The inheritation and the tracing is very easy for blockchain, right? So for antiques, for the history of the antique is traditionally difficult, right? But now with blockchain, it's much easier. Another thing, for Mona Lisa, my student may talk to me that, well, Professor, you like Mona Lisa, but we like the indigenous art pieces. Yeah, maybe young people like new things, right? New art pieces. Yes. So in this kind of indigenous world, maybe people, I think the future young people will like indigenous art. Being indigenous means everything. It stands for 99% of the value of the art. Well, two art pieces of Mona Lisa. The left one is real indigenous, and the right one is a copy. Well, maybe the right one, the left one, with like I would like to pay millions and thousands of millions of dollars to buy, and the right one is worth only $1. So indigenous art pieces will be of greater value. So when I heard this answer from my student, I was so astonished and shocked. Okay, we have another question to Li Jie. To my understanding, blockchain is one of the technologies in the internet technology, right? So is it right? It is in coordination with other technologies, other internet technologies, right? Yes, it's a very good question. In industrial technology, industrial internet, blockchain is, yes, of course, one part of the technology of IoT. Well, as for how much is it, or what is the percentage of blockchain in the whole IoT system? My understanding is that, according to our practice, blockchain is going to solve some of the bottlenecks, some of the headaches of IoT. A lot of data are out there, and it is very difficult to do authentic right verification, right? Whether it can be uploaded, the database, the data, whether this data or that data can be uploaded. I think blockchain can solve this problem, right? The verification of data, the bottlenecks. So the value of blockchain in IoT is that it is a kind of empowerment, right? IoT has, of course, a lot of value, the digitalization, internet, the online system of everything. Of course, a blockchain can solve a lot of bottlenecks and headaches in the whole framework of IoT. In the future, blockchain may solve some of the problems. So it's a kind of empowerment. Without this kind of a framework or the database, may have some of the data is dangerous, some of the data is not real. So I think blockchain can empower the database. Another question, blockchain empowering industrial internet will have different requirement for smart contract. So what kind of improvement the smart contract has to make? Another thing is about edge computing. My question is that about algorithm computing. What is the relationship between computing algorithm and smart contract? What about smart contract? Yesterday, we heard about construction, the architecture, right? The application of smart contract in construction industry. It is very typical to use a smart contract in architecture. It is very complicated, right? But there are typical use. There are some typical use of a smart contract in construction industry. Well, as long as you meet some conditions, preliminary conditions, and then some operations will be taken automatically. Yesterday, we heard about a very good use scenario in construction. Right? Other applications are also existing in some other industries. The second question was about the edge computing, right? Well, actually, we say that all devices, all equipment, all the computing or the algorithm, all the data is uploaded on the cloud terminal, right? So everything is on cloud. When we have cloud computing, we have in the future we'll have side chains, sub chains, and parent chains. You have to have a cross chain transaction, right? For a particular company, it can have own consortium chain or even company chain, right? So all these side chains or sub chains have to be connected. And also in the chain itself, you have your computing power and your data, your results, right? So the framework, the computing power in the chain itself, and the cross-chain computing power, and upload everything and data to the cloud, right? So you definitely need smart contract in the market. For example, in the industry, you have IP, you have the authentic right verification, right? If you have intellectual property, for example, right? So still you need smart contract here too. So edging computing is like well, in this terminal, you have distributed computing power. It's very normal. It's possible in the future. Blockchain have this framework or platform. When you need it, you can go and get it, and you have the right to use the right data, say in a safe and reliable way. Thank you, Mr. Li.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will ask one questions. The question is for Wu Ming. Public chain is the most difficult thing for the blockchain. So at present, we have some advantages. So my question is, how could we further utilize this technology or other relevant ecosystems, or where can we start from, or how could we further promote this technology strengths so that we can create this comprehensive ecosystem? So on this field, what's your thought on this? When talking about the ecosystem, I think it's complicated. First of all, if you have a very good, excellent product, first you should let others know that you have this product, and you can let the consumers feel these advantages. So compatibility is very important. So whether these products can compatible with other devices, it's important. Where actually there are existing Ethernet network, and I think the blockchain technology can be perfectly embedded into that. But how to create a new ecosystem for the perspective of developers, it's easier. I think that's not a problem. When talking about the cross-chain or multi-chains, we have been doing a lot on this field in a form of multi-chains. So based on this already matured ecosystems, whether we can transfer some of the strengths into the new system, well, definitely it's inevitable that we will counter difficulties, we will counter problems that we can't solve. When after the transferring the new, for example, the compass, the transaction fee is higher than the old model. So I think people can further extend this good reputation of the tree graph. You've mentioned the compatibility, this cross chains. How could we solve this problem on an equal footing for ordinary people to understand this AI? I think there's a cornerstone event. For experts, it's nothing, but for ordinary people, it's very impressive. That's the alpha goal, and ordinary people can feel that the era of AI is coming. Or I'm thinking about, is there any phenomenal event? The same kind of thing happened in tree graph. Maybe my question is naive. Even it can't be considered as a question. I mean, do you predict that we will have this phenomenal event? And that's the trend. That's the directions we're working on. It. I think it's all about recognition. how could we further stimulate this understanding, recognition from the field, from the experts, and even from the ordinary people? How this technology, how this blockchain can be understood by the mass. Yesterday, Mr. Long says maybe we can use blockchain to build a big, very, very spectacular building so that ordinary people can understand. I think that was impressive. So there's another following question related to this Long's speech. As an enterprise and a business, as a practitioner, maybe they were encountered some difficulties and challenges of standardization. What's its impetus? What is the driving force? From my perspective, I'm the practitioner in this field. So I myself are proactively participating in the rules and the standards making. And I think these standards can further expand our reputation. So based on our standards, our technology can transfer into more industries so that more people can know us. Another point, as a practitioner, we are also scholars. We're in the academic field. We're doing research on that. I think that, so it's the same with the research. It can make this world better. So this is the right thing to do. So we hope that this industry can develop in a healthy way. In addition, from the perspective of profit, if you're a business who want to do this application, if you are involved in this standardization, it's easier for the company to get involved in the industry so that it can cover in different ecosystems. If you are a company who specialized in this architecture, and you can use the existing ecosystem to create your own ecosystem. So if you have a better standards, it's easier for you to create your own ecosystem. So standardization is important. And there are other questions for Wu Ming. What impressed me just now, you said the paradigm of the program. You said the program, how could you further promote it?
So about the protocol of programming, the paradigm of programming, it is not difficult to work out like a program, a kind of paradigm. If you have the traditional habit, it is just very similar to the traditional ones, right? So it's easy to be applied, to be used. Another thing about promotion, we were always talking about how can we change the habit of users in the public chain. We use the traditional smart contract. In public chain, we have rules to have intensive. Right, we have intensive for the good habit, and we have punish for the bad habit. And for the concurrency, we have, for example, if you have a lot of concurrency, we have incentives to you. We are thinking to set a lot of incentive mechanism so that you have more concurrency tasks, so that you can more incentive, more rewards.
I want to add more on this. I think it's a more broad sense. What you have observed, which industry or what are the industry are in an urgent need to use blockchain technology? Maybe healthcare industry or the storage inventory industry. So in which industry are in a badly need for this blockchain technology? I think that might be very helpful for the audience so that we can have a direction to go. Truly, indeed, as I said, and Professor Hu said, we, we need to find a certain industry. I have done research on several industries. Some companies, for example, they want to certify all this process. All this process are recorded by blockchain, this transaction records, and these companies, well, definitely these companies need such kind of a budget to do that. If with blockchain, and then everyone knows that their business is good, and their financial ledger or this budget, when this budget can come to be implemented. So, and there was very, very concrete, specific records. So if the outsiders can see these records, and they may not establish the relationship with this company, or they may ask money from the banks. So that's for the daily business. If it is trustable, this is trustworthy, I think it's easier for the industries to reach the technology. I think it's more related with my expertise, that is the financial sector. If we can provide in this platform, if this platform is trustworthy, and others can have a very trusted evaluation, so they want to cooperate with us. Or how to solve the problem of shortage of capital, shortage of funds. This is one of the possibilities that will develop in the future. There's another question is for Dr. Han. Blockchain is an open system, especially in industrial. So it's with its nature, it is open. If it's to see when application can be widely used, so either would it be possible? It would be a scenario that the process wouldn't be followed by this standard, but people can control in the middle, during the process. So how could we do that? Well, actually, the standards, including this, talking about these standards, we have a different 7 layers system. But in the United States, they have a simplified version. ICP, IP, they only have 4 layers. So this is 4 layers from the today's internet. But the 7 layers, is there a problem? Is there something wrong with that 7 layers? No, nothing wrong with that. But it didn't form its ecosystem because that was too complicated. But the United States, the Americans solved this problem. So I took this example to further illustrate in blockchain in the future. I think in that more broad way, it is very necessary for different ecosystems. As Dr. Hu said in this Big Bang. I think he's visionary. Standards is a small thing, but it's practical. It's very useful. In the past, we thought the first class companies will make rules or make standards. Standards are useful, but how will it form a healthy or better ecosystem in the industry? So don't think which one is superior than the other. If you can't form the ecosystem, it's useless. So for the rule makers, I think you need to make more friends. Yesterday, I said, for the conflicts has its strengths, but for other, how would you, how can you put other friends in the industries to put in this chain so that you can have a very healthy ecosystem, and all these factors will serve for you, which means in addition, now currently the standards is compulsory or optional. At present, we have some of them are compulsory. Before 1988, all the standards are compulsory. But in fact, and to my understanding, I've been working in this industry for more than 40 years. Compulsory is standards. Well, definitely, it's all compulsory in developed world. We said, but in the international world, all the rules and the standards, we have to follow the standards and follow the rules and meet the standards. If you can form this ecosystem, the standards, you definitely have to meet the standards. The standards are compulsory. So don't just play with yourself. You have to reach consensus with others. Although you have indigenous IP, you have these productions, but you don't have you will lose friends. Another thing related to this topic, you said that before 88, all the standards were compulsory. So there's another problem. So for our government in this blockchain industry development, what's the role of government? How could we further develop blockchain in a more healthier way? How could we see the role of government? I think it's a good question. In our country, we have our strengths of political system. Why I'm so confident in the blockchain? One is blockchain is very necessary for the digital economy, from personal trust to systematic trust. It's all important. It needless to say its importance. And from the top, our political bureau and our NDRC put it in our 5-year plan. And I asked the Director May yesterday. So our central government has put this blockchain into the essential R&D in the future. As far as I know, Yesterday, a company in Hangzhou has made something in environmental protection. We're talking about a beautiful China, carbon neutrality, carbon peak. The Environmental Protection Bureau, the courts. If without blockchain technology, there is no hard evidence to show. Last year, the Beijing Internet Bureau is also making the standard. I didn't use the correct word, but actually it's all about electronic evidence. It has realized its remote collection of evidence. I watched the news this morning. If without the blockchain, there won't be a big database that including 25 provinces in China. So if without this smart contracts, without the blockchain, it wouldn't be realized that goal.
One more question. Yesterday, Professor Si Xueming and Professor Park talked about the development of blockchain in and outside China, and also there are a lot of challenges and bottlenecks and the risks. Some of them are even very urgent. So the question is that under this kind of scenario, any foreign experiment can be used in China scenario. Our Mr. Han definitely has a lot to say on this question. But for practitioners in the industry, for me, I think stable coins has some space to explore any economic activities has to introduce in the transaction media, that is money, right? Otherwise, there will be no economic activities at all. So we have no existing successful experience. Right, we have to borrow experience from the fiat currency at the moment. Right, we have very successful and very many existing currencies. Right. Secondly, the U.S. is a kind of conservative market in terms of regulation. The government of the United States has already been very open to stable coins. They have this ADB department to do auditing and regulation of banks, of the whole banking system, especially the registered banks. And this ADB, the department has already rolled out a policy recently that it is open to receive stable coins. And the benefit of stable coins is huge. But at the same time, there will be a lot of risks. But risks that have to be controllable. Otherwise, the OCC will not be open to it. Well, you're a financial expert. You have definitely a say. You have your voice strong. For me, yes, I think stable coins is a shock to me. For me, I think finance regulation definitely needs regulation. Regulation for finance is very restrict, but we need development. We need to go forward, and the leadership of the country is very open to embrace changes. Stable coins have received recognition if this cross industry area is not taken by the government and the mainstream of the society, then it will be taken by the businesses, the private sector, others. So the blockchain companies have the responsibility or the duty that you have to explain and state very clear that the relationship between development and safety. You have to realize the relationship and state clear the risk and the development, the benefit of stablecoin. Right? We have the responsibility. Well, you are very optimistic, and yes, so we are all optimistic for financial practitioners. I'm a little bit worried, and we feel urgent to do it. Okay, now in the interest of time, we have to call an end to the roundtable and the forum at large. There are definitely a lot of challenges, a lot of questions. It is not enough to take a forum to solve all the problem, but it's good to talk and to exchange, to share that, to let more people know about Bitcoin. It is very significant and meaningful to have this kind of exchange, right? It is our great honor and pleasure to have experts, scholars, professors to share with us to build a better future of Bitcoin, to build a better future for mankind. And more programs will be allocated, and in the global arena, we have more voice. So it is very significant. Now, let's call an end of the forum. Thank you again for coming. Thank you. And leaders and guests, could you come onto the stage and have a group photo? We have a buffet outside, right? Oh, we have a coffee break. Okay. So enjoy your time.